Hey everyone, back tuning into today's video. It's Monday at gasweathers.com, which means only one thing, it's Europe Day. Every Monday at Gasweathers we have a look at the weather for the coming week across the continent, and today is no exception. Now, we've had some really intense and extreme heat across eastern and northeastern parts of Europe through the past week. I think we're going to find things gradually turning a little bit cooler from the west as we go through this week. It's going to be a slow process, and it's really going to be in the west that we have the coolest unsettled conditions this week. I think the east will still hang on to quite a lot of hot weather, but perhaps not quite as hot as it has been through the past week. Have a look at all the detail in a moment. Before I get on with that though, just talk about the advertising, the video ad pages at gasweathers.com. Get play on the video ad, be supporting gasweathers.com. Thanks so much for doing that. Website we're using for the charts is wetessential.de, a fabulous German website. You can find a link to it on the links page. So let's get on with it, and here's today's optic pressure chart. Got this big ridge of high pressure here up to the northeast Europe. That's really been the driver for the heat in the east and the northeast. Got a more Atlantic flow out to west and the northwest with low pressure waiting in the winds. So I can see a more active week in terms of the Atlantic, I think, over the coming week. And it's already started across Ireland and the United Kingdom and northern parts of France. We are bringing in cooler and fresher west winds, but a lot of high pressure through the Mediterranean, mainly hot and dry down in the Med. Have a look at the upper air temperatures and the heat. The intense heat is really from Scandinavia stretched down the Baltic in towards the east and northeast Europe. Some incredible heat going on up there. I say it's a cooler and fresher scene out to west and the northwest. It's hot though as we go through the Med. The dividing line for the heat and the slightly cooler temperatures seem to be Germany. Convective potential risk today shows it's from Scandinavia down in towards central and eastern parts of Europe. From Germany eastwards have a risk of heat and thunderstorms through today. There is a risk of convective potential, I should say, through the Med, but I don't think we'll realise that risk because the air is very dry, generally high pressure in control, so I think most of the Med is going to stay dry today. You can see that on the rainfall prediction that virtually the whole of the Med away from the Pyrenees is going to be dry. Maybe a few thunderstorms down across the far southeast of the Balkans, but I think really most of the Med are going to be getting away with dry and fine conditions today. But storm risk is going to be through southern parts of France, over the Alps in towards Germany. A big storm risk today across Germany and just fringing into parts of Poland as well. And then going further northwards into Denmark, through the Baltic Sea, up in towards southern parts of Sweden and over Norway. Could be a storm across Ireland, central parts of England as well. It's mainly dry to the northeast, back very hot, but mainly dry under bad air pressure. The temperatures, look at that, really hot again in the east and the northeast. Temperatures from Germany eastwards really is going to be very hot today. Much of Poland seeing temperatures up to 34, 35 degrees. And going eastwards of that, could be even hotter with temperatures perhaps up to 36, locally 37, getting on for 100 Fahrenheit. Up to the northwest, it's a cooler scene there for much of France, away from the south of France anyway, where it's still quite hot with risk of thunderstorms. But for central and northern parts of France, it's cooler, as it is for Ireland and United Kingdom, with temperatures into the upper teens or below 20 Celsius. Going through to the middle of the week, low pressure going to be taking over in the northwest, but ridge up to the northeast is beginning to weaken, but it still is largely in control. But I think the hottest of the air is gradually being pushed back a little bit further eastwards and northeastwards by midweek. A lot of high pressure influences still going on through the Med. Upper air temperatures show that things are easing off a little bit over Scandinavia, but still very warm, much warmer than it should be. It's still a very hot scene for much of the east and the northeast of Europe. The cooler, fresher air is out to the northwest, but even parts of France and Germany will be seeing the temperatures lifting up a little bit, I think, through the course of the middle of the week. The convective potential risk is being pushed gradually a little bit eastward, so it's moving from Germany in towards Poland, I think, the greatest risk of thunderstorms from middle of week, and then east and northeast back. There is a risk of convective potential through the Med, but I don't think we'll realise it again because the air is going to be very dry through the middle of the week. Rainfall forecast shows that storms are still stretched out from the parts of Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, going down into Poland, and then to the southeast of that, possibly kicking off around the Balkans and going down into some parts of coastal areas anyway of Greece. Going through the Med, though, largely it's a dry scene. Few scattered thunderstorms maybe across Italy, but it's mainly a dry scene, I think, through the course of middle week. Come up into France, there's risk of some showers, and then we've got the risk of some heavy showers or maybe some thunderstorms across the United Kingdom and Ireland. Mainly dry though for Germany through through the middle of the week. The temperatures midweek shows that the worst of the heat, of the most intense heat, is being gradually pushed a little bit further eastward. Still very, very warm through many central areas. Germany, for instance, up to 27, 28, 29 into the 80s Fahrenheit, but we lose the intensity of the heat more towards the east than the northeast, I think, as we go through middle of the week. Very hot scene through the Mediterranean. Going into the end of the week, low pressure is properly in charge now across Ireland and the United Kingdom. That'll be pushing in towards parts of France as well. Still generally high pressure through the east and the northeast of Europe, but it's gradually is weak and it's gradually breaking down, so probably an increasing risk of showers. A lot of high pressure influences through the Med, I have to say, although everything is looking very, very slack. The upper air temperatures show that the heat is really building up again across parts of Spain, particularly central Spain. Going through the Med, it is a hot scene, and it still really is pretty hot across many central eastern parts of Europe. The coolest air, or the only real cool air, is going to be out to the far west and northwest of Europe at the end of the week. Increasing risk of thunder, I think, across France. Big risk of convective potential there, possibly fringing into southern parts of England as well. Then through central areas, not such a big risk, but once you get through towards the east, then we start to see the risk increasing again, particularly around Ukraine and going off towards the Black Sea, and then up in towards the northeast of Europe, around Scandinavia too. There could be some convecting. The rainfall forecast shows we've got risk of thunderstorms there across much of France. Could be some torrential storms at the end of the week coming down to the Pyrenees, possibly kicking off around northern parts of Spain as well, around the Bay of Biscay, but most of Spain will be very dry and hot. Just as suggestion that could be some storms breaking out, and usually across parts of North Africa. That's very unusual for this time of year, but just a few showers maybe kicking off around those coastal regions of North Africa. But most of the Med is still going to be dry at the end of the week. The summer heat is not showing signs of breaking down yet through the Mediterranean. Many central areas mainly dry, but we've got risk of thunderstorms over Scandinavia, and they'll be pushing down into the far east of Europe through parts of Ukraine, going down into the Balkans. There could be some thunderstorms in those regions. Have a look at the temperatures. Well, again, it's the northwest that's got the coolest air, so Ireland is basically the coolest part of Europe this week, with temperatures there just into the upper teens at best. Even into the United Kingdom, it gets a little bit warm, but temperatures there are about where they should be, into the low 20s. But everywhere else, really, it's going to be very warm, if not locally hot. The severest of the heat is being pushed away to the extreme eastern end of Europe by the end of next week. But don't get me wrong, it's still going to be very warm, if not hot, in many places through Europe at the end of the week. And then very interestingly, as we go through to next weekend, there's a lot of low confidence or poor confidence about the weather next weekend. But this area of low pressure just here out in the Atlantic is the remains of tropical storm, I should say, not reached hurricane status, tropical storm Bertha. That's the remains of tropical storm Bertha moving in to the northwest Europe. The exact track of that low pressure is hard to pin down at this stage, but it could turn it very wet across parts of northwestern Europe at the end of the week and into the weekend. Here's the upper air temperature showing the heat is in the east again, and then there's going to be some very warm air associated with that area of low pressure because it is a subtropical storm, so some very warm and humid remains associated with that, and that could lift the heat actually out of Spain and Portugal, pushing into some central parts of Europe for the weekend, but very low confidence forecast for next weekend. Convective potential shows it's through central areas, but with that area of low pressure, I think there will be risk of some convective coming into the west. There's the rain associated with that low pressure heading into Ireland on this particular run of the GFS when I'm doing the video, but this will change, and I think generally Ireland, the United Kingdom, central parts of France, possibly into Belgium and Holland, Denmark, maybe Norway as well, will be all having to look out in those areas for risk of some very significant rain at the weekend and on into next week. Then it's drier really through many central areas, particularly Spain and Portugal, going into towards Germany, parts of Sweden as well, and then we get more thunderstorms kicking off into eastern parts of Europe. The heat is building in the east again at the end of the week with an interweekend with temperatures getting up in towards the mid-30s, so in towards the mid-90s Fahrenheit. It shows that it's cooler out to the northwest, but of course we have areas of low pressure coming in. It could suck up some heat out of Spain and Portugal and push it northeastwards into certainly parts of France and Germany at risk of that. So very low confidence for the weekend. I'll keep you updated on it. If you keep checking back my regular videos, I'll be doing more updates what's going on with that area of low pressure. But the general theme for this week is that the extreme heat that we've got right now across Scandinavia and east and northeast parts of Europe will slowly be getting pushed further and further into the east of Europe, the extreme east of them, with the west particularly having a much more unsettled week as low pressure areas coming in off the Atlantic, and it will be cooler in the west as well. So gradually the heat moderating to the east and the northeast, but still a very warm week away from northwest Europe for most places. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.